Welcome back. I'm Dr. Deidre, and today I'm conversing with author Denise Goodloe, who most recently published a children's book that highlights inclusion and diversity through food. However, before we get to Chitlins and Rice, there was Return to Sender, her first novel. So we're going to get into all of that. But first, here's a fact. Recent data highlights ongoing challenges and incremental progress for Black authors in publishing. According to a 2023 diversity baseline survey by Lee and Low Books, Black African representation in publishing remains low at 5.3%, with little significant change over recent years. This is why conversations like this are crucial to lend our support. Welcome, Denise.
Thank you. Hello, everybody.
Can you tell us a little bit about your background and what led you to become an author?
Absolutely. My name is Denise Goodloe. I was born and raised in Clearwater, Florida. I am 52, pending birthday in July. Needless to say, I was married for 8 years to my first husband, and now I am on my second marriage. 5 years. What led me or inspired me to write Return to Sender was to get the word out there in the hopes of reaching just one person to try to help to not ignore or recognize red flags or warning signs.
Okay. What challenges did you face while writing Return to Sender?
There were a lot of challenges in the beginning because, of course, this was my first book. So, in the beginning, I was very excited. I was trying to get everything out there to try to lead up to where this abuse kind of started. So, there was some verbal abuse going on. Got to remember too, this story was a young girl. So it's a story of a young girl who fell in love with her high school sweetheart. So of course, this girl was young. She's looking for love in all the wrong places. And she's just wanting this love to be reciprocated. So she ignored a lot of the warning signs or red flags, whether at that time they were just kind of verbal or there was a push here or a shove there, just kind of overlook certain things, if you will.
Yes.
And that's not okay. That's not okay. And as I'm writing Return to Sender, I literally had to stop for almost 2 weeks because at this point in the book, it's now really putting that out there, what actually happened in the relationship. So I had to relive it in order to get the story told. And that challenged me because here I am trying to not leave anything out, but not be so graphic with it as well. But you want to get that out so that way people can see, hey, let's continue to try to push forward and choose yourself and not remain a victim, you know. And that's
Exactly.
why I kept pushing forward and picked that pen back up and kept moving.
Well, we are certainly glad you did because we want the real and raw, and sometimes that's what we need. And like you said, if it helps one person to see, hey, listen, I don't have to go through this. I can be a survivor of this and not a victim. All right.
Absolutely.
So what message do you hope readers take away from Return to Sender?
I just hope that readers actually choose themselves. In the beginning of the book, actually, just want to go back, Deidre. I actually stated in the book that coming up, I used to watch like your Jerry Springers, your Oprahs, and everything that would come on the TV where people would just kind of air out their dirty laundry, especially like Maury Povich,
Yes.
and Ricky Lake. So I'm watching these shows back then, and I would just sit there and be like, how can people air out their dirty laundry like this? It's like, it's not some of these, stories that people would come on there and tell was like really, really like just devastating.
Yes.
And then here I am airing out mine, but mine in this book is to help at least one person. If one person just say, hey, I'm going to choose myself and not continue to be the victim, because love should not be delivered in the form of pain.
Right. And I understand completely what you're saying about those shows. I mean, who didn't flip through the channels and see someone fighting on stage, all of those things. But what I gather from return to sender is that this information is constructive. So we're not advocating violence in any way, but what we're saying is it happens in people's everyday lives, and how can we mitigate it and how can we make better choices?
Right.
So because it's such a sensitive topic, I know you said you had to take some time off and stop writing. Were there other approaches that you took to really get into it and feel like, hey, I have to do this?
Yes, and that approach was just thinking about the main incident that made me just choose myself at that point, because at that time I had two daughters
Mm,
that I chose. At this point, I have to protect these daughters. My thing was, if, okay, if you want to stay in this type of relationship, then okay, what was you? However, now you have two kids that you have to protect.
mm,
And to see this type of, it was just challenging for me to just go back into it and just see the type of behavior that I was dealing with. And I said to myself, that's not fair to my kids. And I grew up in a home, in a loving home,
mhm,
loving parents, and my main thing for really not wanting to, leave was because of, say, embarrassment or a failed marriage, or the the frightening fear of feeling that I can't raise two kids by myself. I don't want to be a single parent, but I had to choose myself and I had to choose them as well because I was their protector.
I understand. So, with
Mhm.
the personal experiences that you share in Return to Sender, would you consider it a memoir?
Yes,
Okay.
I would. I definitely would because it's my story. It's
Mhm.
when I tell you it gets deep, and it gets really, really deep. And I didn't leave anything out. I mean, it went from verbal to physical, and the physical was very physical, and I didn't leave nothing out.
All righty. What has been the response from readers to Return to Sender?
I was very shocked in this because I had so many people, and I mean, even strangers. I had people that I knew
Mhm.
that were reaching out to me that I never knew had been in this type of situation, and they were just coming forward. I had people texting me, I had people calling me, I had people DMing in my messenger. So I'm just receiving all types of messages and responses from the actual story that I told, and it just, I was elated because here you're working next to someone or with someone over 20 something years in a company that you never knew went through this type of stuff. So to me it was just an overwhelming feeling. It's really even hard to explain at this point, but I was very, very satisfied, overly satisfied, because it didn't just reach one person, it reached several people.
Excellent. All right, Denise, you have given us plenty with Return to Sender. I'm ready to get into some chitlins and rice. All right.
Let's do
So,
it.
yes, Chitlins and Rice is your second book that
Yes.
focuses on diversifying children's palette. Let's jump right into Chitlins and Rice. How did you come up with the idea for Chitlins and Rice?
Now that story there, I tell you what, I'm gonna try and shorten it down. But so my mom passed away in 2022,
Sorry.
and that year was the first year. She passed away in October. So that, of course, we have Thanksgiving coming up, and we have Christmas coming up. So it's our first holiday without mom. And we're on a FaceTime with my dad and the rest of our family. And my dad, we're trying to get a menu going for the holiday.
Okay.
And my dad just comes out and says, okay, now who's going to clean and cook the chitlins? I can't have a holiday without chitlins. And all of us are on this, like 10 of us on this FaceTime. My sister, her kids, me and my kids, my husband sitting next to me. And when my dad comes out with this chitlins, who's going to clean and cook them for me? My husband's like, no, no, I'm not eating that. So he's making all these faces and they can see him because we're on FaceTime. And
Right.
of course, the kids are on the phone and they're like, no, no, grandpa, we're not doing that now. That's not going to make the menu. And it just went from there. And finally, my husband stood up and looked on the phone and he goes, listen, y'all, I'm not eating no chitlins and rice. He said, "And I don't care what seasoning sides or the spice." And we just fell out laughing. And from there, I said, "You mean you don't want us to ask you twice because you keep trying to be nice?" And so every time we would have a conversation with any of those family members, they would keep rhyming with it and keep going with it. And I said, "All right, y'all gotta keep playing around. I'm end up writing a story about that."
Aw.
And it just went from there.
I love it. I love it. And I have to say, my dad's no longer with us, and neither is my mom, and she passed in October as well. So, my condolences to you and your family, because I know a lot of times when those family members pass on and become our ancestors, some of those recipes they take with them. Like I could never duplicate my mom's sweet potato pie and potato salad as much as I would love to. So, I understand, but I do, because my dad can make a mean pot of chitlins and beans and all of that. I do like me
Mhm.
some chitlins and rice. Unfortunately, we won't be having them in our household either.
Uh-huh.
But but it's good to know you've kind of made it into an actual book, but you
Mhm.
also made it into something that your family can just kind of relish in and keep going. So I love that.
Right.
All right, but
Thank
what
you.
challenges did you face in writing chitlins and rice?
So I had to make sure that the message that I was trying to get out there was the message. And I have nothing against chitlins and rice because I grew up on them and I used to love chitlins and rice. And it wasn't till when I saw them being cleaned and everything it took to get them to the pot. It was like, okay, yeah, never mind. I'm done with the chitlins. I'm done with the chitlins. But I mean, my daughter, she still eats them, my oldest one. And some of our family members actually still does, but my dad loves them. So I wanted to make sure that the message was clear that there's nothing wrong, if you do eat chitlins or what have you, doesn't have to have the rice with it. But if you do eat
Yeah.
chitlins, because it's actually a delicacy.
Yes. Yes. In some places it is. And I
Yes.
know you've been in the military. I'm a veteran as well. We've
Mhm.
traveled. We've seen a lot of things, been a lot of places, probably eaten some foods that are uncommon here in the States. So I think this is just so wonderful. How do you balance writing a children's book with writing more serious adult themes?
It was actually a challenge there because, of course, with Return to Sender, I was more focused, trying to make sure that I don't leave out this or don't leave out that, or make sure these warning signs are in there so that people can say, "Oh, wait, yeah, that." And a lot of that too is, you know how you blinded by love, so you just want to make sure you take that shield off and recognize what's happening there. With Chitlins and Rice, it was a more of a fun write, but I had to also make sure certain things, excuse me, certain things I did not include in the book because, of course, it's history.
Mhm.
It is our history, but I wanted to also make sure that I can get this book into, say, some preschools, some schools,
Yeah.
what have you. And we all know that, our history is
Mhm.
being taken off of the shelf. So I just wanted to make sure certain things were not in the book, and they actually were. My publicist and I had to go back over some things and like take some of that out because of the simple fact we didn't want it to be banned from
Right.
certain shelves, basically.
Wow. Okay. Well, in doing so, what message do you hope that children will take away from Chitlins and Rice?
I just want children to be open. And in the front of the book, there, when the story starts, my main character her name is Patricia.
Okay.
And when she walks into that home, into her grandmother's home, and she smells what's going on in there, she's like, yuck, So I just want kids to kind of be mindful and be open, not
Yeah.
saying go out and, ask your parents to cook you some chitlins and rice, but just to be mindful of what's on someone else's plate, or
Mhm.
whether, other kids may like or what have you, because it can become offensive, if someone likes something and say you don't, and you're constantly, coming at them with, hey, that looks funny, that smells funny, or that may taste funny, or what have you. So you just want them to kind of be open and challenged, if you
Right.
will, don't knock it if you haven't tried it. basically.
Exactly. And it sounds like Chitlins and Rice, although I'm waiting on my copy, I know that it's just not for preschoolers. It's all the way up to
Mhm.
adults.
Yep.
Because from 0 to 99, you can start reading Chitlins and Rice. And so I'm looking forward to putting it in my library. So let me ask you, what response have you gotten from Chitlins and Rice?
Oh, wow. When I tell you at first, even with my publicist, when I first came to her and told her I'm ready for another book and I am ready for the children's, because I'm actually going to start a children's series
Okay.
with the main four characters there. And she said, okay, well, let's do it. And she goes, well, tell me a little bit about it. And I start telling her, I say, but the main thing is the title's going to be Chitlins and Rice. And my publicist said, Chitlins and Rice. And it just went from there. And she was like, I want to hear about it. She said, yeah, I'm ready. I want to work with you on this.
Yes.
Come on, let's get this going. And it just kind of went from there. But I actually had a signing this past weekend. And I tell you, Deidre, there was so many people that came out and supported and showed me love. And it's actually doing what I wanted it to do and just get out there and just kind of, get the word out there and I don't know, just share, 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 basically.
All right. Well, it definitely gives a good message, and I can see your passion in this. So, again,
Hmm.
I'm excited for you. All right. So, how do you think representation in literature impacts children and teenagers?
I think it impacts children and teenagers really well. Maybe not so more as the parents, because of course we know a lot more of um, history or what have you. And the fact that it's being diminished or, removed or
Mhm.
what have you, I just feel like there's so much more that needs to be shared or that could be shared or put out there. But I just feel like there's a wall placed up there when it comes to our history.
Yes. All right. Are there any authors or books that have particularly influenced your writing style?
I like a bunch of different authors. I tell you, I mean, I've read everything from Maya Angelou to Joel Osteen, or Eric Jerome Dickey. I mean, it just depends on the mood at the time and what I'm looking for, what have you. But I've read so many different books um, in my lifetime, and I love reading. So it just I can go to the library and just stand in there and just go from book to book, basically. So,
A lost art. I'm gonna tell you, we have to get our children back into the library, even adults, because
yes,
unless we're reading on our phones, you typically don't see someone with a book in their hand.
that's
And I
right.
still buy books. I still love books. So
Mhm.
thank you for sharing that. So, what are you working on next? Or I know Chitlins in Rice is just kind of new, but just forward thinking. What's your next series going to look like?
My next series, because so I took a AI training class,
Okay.
and I went in and I created these four characters on the front of the book there. So I am going to stick with those four characters and then from there start maybe introducing a little bit more. And I will tell you this, my next book that will lead from this topic here is probably going to be Patricia Goes to Church. And I know I'm going to have some fun with that one.
All right. So everybody, you heard that. So we'll be looking forward to that as well. So what would you say to aspiring authors out there, Denise?
I would just say, if you're aspiring to become an author, uh, don't just dream big. Don't just fantasize about it. Pick up a pen, pick up a notepad, and just start writing. Just start writing and just start going down that avenue. And trust me, you will get your word out. You will then become, at some point, that published author that you dreamed of and that you fantasized about being. Just put it out there, go for your dreams. Don't just remain, and be comfortable, but get out there. Get yourself out there and don't be afraid. How they say, take the leap, just take the leap and see where it goes.
All right, Denise, thank you so much. It has been a pleasure talking to you. I'm excited to have you come back so we can talk a little bit more about when Patricia goes to church or
Yes.
anything else that you would like to share as you as an author and how you inspire others. Just know that you have a platform here. So thank you, and I appreciate you. And we look forward to what else you have coming in store.
Thank you.
All right, bye.
Bye-bye.
As always, self love is sexy. Be selfish in your love for self and selfless in your love for others. If you enjoyed this video, like it. If you found it useful and want to see more, subscribe. If it pertains to someone you know, share it. And if you have an opinion, leave a comment. A conscious heart will do all four. Thank you.